Okay, so price usually figures prominently in my bike reviews because I like to inform my viewers about the relative bang for the buck of the motorcycles I test. But this is a Harley CVO, which stands for Custom Vehicle Operations, essentially a limited number of customized special edition bikes done up to the nines and with prices not for the faint of heart. This particular model, the Road Glide CVO ST, is an homage to the bikes that Harley races in the King of the Baggers series and is intended to be the ultimate performance bagger with the ST in the name standing for Sport Tourer. The price? $43K US and 52,800 Canadian MSRP, and good luck getting any Harley, especially a CVO, for MSRP. If you're very lucky here in Ontario and you find one for close to MSRP, let's say $55,000, then add the criminal 13% tax we pay here, you can cut a check for $62K plus a few accessories and ride this bike home. Obviously, this is not a motorcycle for the average guy. This bike is for the Harley enthusiast who has an appreciation for racing baggers and a fat wallet, fatter than mine anyways. So I won't focus too much on the price of this bike. Yes, the price is outrageous, but this bike is for the guy who won't even notice a $60K hit to his investment portfolio. I spent a week with the CVO Road Glide ST and put well over 1,000 kilometers on it, including highways, 2 lanes, city riding, and twisty roads, so I got pretty well acquainted with it. Is it worth the money, and is it indeed a sport tourer? For the answers to these pressing questions, stay tuned. And as always, if you're finding this content valuable, please consider helping the channel out by subscribing, liking the video, and sharing it with friends. Any talk of Harleys begins and ends with the engine, and this high output 121 cubic inch beast, that's 1,983 cc for you metric types, is a revelation. I remember the old 80 cubic inch carbureted Evos outputting 50 horses in the 90s. This beast of a motor produces 127 horsepower and a massive 145 pound-feet of torque at the crank, and isn't far off of that on the dyno. It runs 114 horsepower and 130 pound-feet at the rear wheel, and feels it because it's lower geared than other Harley baggers. Acceleration is right now, as is passing power. Want a quick pass, twist and go. Want a very quick one, shift down and rip. The bike gets up to 200 kilometers per hour or 125 miles per hour very quickly and stops as the speed limiter kicks in. Why kill the fun? I'm not sure unless the engineers found some instability above that speed. I like to see where the engine actually tops out just out of curiosity, but I guess Harley figures that not too many owners wanted to exceed 200 kilometers per hour. This is also not the variable valve timing motor from the other CVOs because this being the sportiest bagger, the engineers put the focus on absolute output rather than balance and efficiency. Unfortunately, because of sound regulations, you don't get the full sound of the M8 motor until, like every other Harley rider ever, you put some pipes on this bike. Stock, the sound is deep, but definitely muted. From the saddle, however, the sound is nice and menacing under acceleration and sounds meaner and more aggressive than the other Milwaukee 8s in the lineup. The motor definitely has a lot of Harley character as well, though I found it quite different from other Milwaukee 8s. Where most M8 motors are laid back and feel like they're barely trying, this one is a bit more high-strung and seems to be pulling at the leash to be let loose. This is neither good nor bad, just realize that this bike is quite a bit more high-strung than bikes with the 114 and 117 Milwaukee 8 motors. You can still have a relaxed cruise on it, but the low gearing and big power make it feel busier. At a standstill and slow speeds, a low vibration makes its way into the seat and handlebars but disappears at speed. This is never buzzy or unpleasant, just a deep pulsing which adds to the character of the motor. The power is somewhat tamed by the electronics, which are much improved for the 2024 model year. The CVO Road Glide ST gets rider modes, Sport, Standard, and Rain, plus several custom modes you can dial in yourself by specifying throttle sensitivity, engine braking, traction control, and ABS. In addition, it gets 2 track modes, which is a bit of overkill on what is ostensibly a touring bagger, but hey, if you want to track your bagger, I guess this is the bike for you. The track modes dial back the traction control, which is now lean sensitive by the way, as is the ABS. I didn't try them out myself, but found sport mode to be plenty entertaining in the twisties. It's nice to see more safety features on Harleys now, especially on this one with all that power. The new Road Glides have lost 16 pounds compared to last year's models and now weigh 838 pounds, which is still heavy. At high speed, the weight is barely noticeable, but at parking lot speeds you feel it, and smaller riders should be aware that this bike can be a handful in slow maneuvers. Suspension on this model is upgraded to a fully adjustable Showa fork, as well as fully adjustable dual shocks with piggyback reservoirs. These look cool, but will have to be relocated with special brackets if you want to mount a top box or rear rack. The suspension is on the firm side, and having the bike for a week only, I didn't play around with it. It performed well and soaked up most of the road imperfections no problem, and it kept the bike buttoned down nicely in the bendy stuff. The rear shocks have an extra inch of travel on this model, but that's still only 3 inches. Still, only the largest bumps in the road are felt significantly by the rider, and this being Harley's sporty bagger, the performance in the twisties is good. The brakes are also upgraded as they are radial mounted Brembos and have plenty of stopping power even for a bike of this size. The CVO Road Glide ST is equipped with engine guards which protect the fairing in the event of a drop. If you're thinking you can use them as highway pegs, you can on the left side. You can't reach the right one with your foot because the giant air filter is in the way. The mirrors are widely spaced and provide a great view of what's behind you. They are also clear and free of vibration. The seating position is a bit of a mixed bag. I like the thick, tall and wide handlebar, but found the reach a bit too far from me, and I'm 6 feet tall. In tight turns with the steering at a lock, I found that the reach to the farther bar was too much and I didn't feel fully in control of the bike. Perhaps the engineers were wanting to put the rider in a more aggressive position when riding fast, and this is the case when you're hustling the bike in the curves, but for slow riding, I'd tilt those bars a bit closer to me. I didn't do that because it's not my bike, but out of the box it seems to be set up for taller riders. The CVO Road Glide ST has a solo seat which sits 28.3 inches off the ground with a carbon cowling behind it. Generally, I prefer the adventure bike sitting position because having your feet underneath you instead of in front of you, like on cruisers, takes some of the weight off your sit bones, but this seat is plenty comfortable and I did a 750 kilometer day on it without being any worse for wear. Wind protection is really good everywhere except on the head. The huge fairing keeps the wind off your body and mostly off your legs as well. There are 2 adjustable wind deflectors which can be set to shield you from the wind or direct the wind at your legs on hot days. The biggest issue I have with Harley baggers is, as usual, the windshield. The Road Glide is shaped nicely and the new fairing blocks the wind from hitting your body while directing clean air at your helmet as long as the vent located below the windshield is open. Close that vent on the highway and suddenly your helmet is buffeting something fierce. There are tow windshields available both from Harley and the aftermarket if you want the clean bubble of air around your helmet, but then you lose that stylish low windshield look. I like taller windshields for 2 reasons. 1, here in Ontario, Canada where I live, we have bug season. If you ride a motorcycle without a windshield in the spring, it's not long before your helmet's face shield is so covered with bug guts that you can't see and have to stop and clean the thing. I know that this is not as big a deal in less buggy environments, but it's super annoying here. Second, this is a touring bike built for munching miles on the highway at high speeds. Yet, if I wanted to ride to Sturgis, which is a 3-day ride for me, mostly highway droning, I'd need something to occupy my mind. I'd either listen to music or download some podcasts. Thing is, the stock windshield on every Harley bagger puts my head in the wind, and at highway speeds, I can't hear either my headset or the excellent Rockford stereo Harley puts on their CVOs. And the stereo does sound great, but above 80 km per hour or 50 miles per hour, forget it. The wind noise drowns it out. Every other premium bagger on the market, whether it's an Indian, a BMW, or the Honda Goldwing, has an electrically adjustable windshield, and Harley has yet to build one. And if Harley wants to save weight on the sporty bagger like this one, I'd settle for a mechanically adjustable one like the one on the Pan America or the Africa Twin Adventure Sports. No need for electricity. Keep it low on the boulevard for maximum style points and raise it up on the highway so you can enjoy that stereo even at high speeds. So that's my biggest pet peeve with Harley baggers. Please give riders an adjustable windshield, Harley. For these premium prices, these bikes should have them. Now speaking of style points, this is Harley's strength. I'm not a fan of big fairings on motorcycles, and previous Road Glide fairings always looked comically large to me. The Road King was always my favorite Harley touring model, followed by the Street Glide, with the Road Glide taking last spot, by a lot. I used to joke that the bike looked like a Road King that got its head stuck in a garbage can. But I have to say, this new fairing is sleeker and shaped pretty nicely. It's grown on me. I still think the Street Glide looks better, but it's a much closer call now. The new fairing is better looking and the rest of the bike looks slamming good. My tester was black with red accents everywhere and a blacked out engine, and where I find other CVOs to be a bit too much with the chrome and the fancy paint, I like the more modern and understated look of the Road Glide ST. Yup, it definitely grew on me and looks properly badass. I especially like how visible that huge light is for safety reasons. You can spot this thing from space, and drivers should be able to see you coming from miles away. The bags are a mixed bag. They look stylish and are shaped beautifully to flow with the rear fender. However, they only hold a combined 62 liters, which is definitely on the low side as compared to the Kawasaki Vaquero, which give you 76 liters, and adventure bikes like the Pan America, which holds a massive 82 liters in its aluminum bags. The cutout for the rear shock also narrows the bag right in the middle and limits the width of objects that can fit in it. But how does this thing ride, you ask? Well, these bikes are built for the highway, and on the highway the CVO Road Glide ST feels great. It cruises along effortlessly right in the meat of its power band with a ton of roll-on power available with the twist of a wrist. Neither crosswinds nor gusts of air coming from big trucks upset this huge bike, and it was pretty happy in the rain as well. I didn't even bother with rain mode because I like the power too much. On curvy, twisty roads, it does well to a point. In wide flowing curves, it carves the corners beautifully with plenty of lean angle before the smallish floorboards touch down. It's surprising how fast you can hustle these things in the curves. However, when the road gets tighter, you start to feel the weight when changing directions in tighter S-curves. Yes, Harley calls this a sport tourer, but don't expect it to keep up with traditional sport touring bikes like the Yamaha FJR 1300 or most big adventure bikes when the road gets really windy. Still, this motorcycle is very quick for a bagger, and I can't imagine the guys who are shopping for it trying to decide between it and a lighter sport tourer. In the bagger world, only the BMW K1600B can run with the CVO Road Glide ST, and the Beamer ain't no Harley. It doesn't have the same character. The thing no bagger is really designed for is riding in the city, even if the promotional video shows it racing around empty city streets. In reality, most city streets are crowded, and in traffic I'd always worry that the wide fairing and bags will catch on something as I'm trying to squeeze through the tight spaces between cars. Also, the clutch is quite heavy, and I did manage to get caught in rush hour traffic in Toronto a couple of times. On the highway and stop-and-go traffic, this clutch gets old real fast. But that's not what this motorcycle is built for, is it? It's made for the open road and some sporty fun, and in that regard, it delivers. What do I like about it? Motor. That motor has plenty of power and personality. Put a stage 1 or more on it, and the sound will match the muscle. The looks are much improved from previous models, and the Road Glide is now a pretty good looking bike, especially the CVO. The stereo is awesome, I just wish you could enjoy it at higher speeds. The torso and lower body wind protection is great, as is the sporty suspension and even the stock seat. This bike is a hot rod with good handling in the curves. Good handling for its size, that is. What could be improved? Well, despite the fact that Harley has incorporated rider modes and lean-sensitive ABS and traction control into its baggers, for this price you expect the motorcycle to have every bell and whistle, and there are a lot less expensive bikes that have a long list of features missing on this one. Things like electronically adjustable windshields and suspensions, adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, standard heated grips, and even seats, quick shifters, and passenger seats and pegs. So my primary dislikes center around the rather thin list of standard features considering the impressive price tag. Now I get that Harley is trying to keep this model as light as possible to keep it as sporty as possible, but the truth is that many of these features are also not available on the non-ST CVO models. Again, the guy willing to pay the big bucks for this bike can afford to put accessory heated grips on it as well as other goodies, but for these prices you'd think that more standard features would be included. Personally, I don't go in for too many bells and whistles, it's just more things to break down if you ask me. But the market is increasingly expecting extra features on luxury bikes, so it would be good if at least a few of them made it into the CVOs, which, after all, are supposed to be the bee's knees of baggers. Having said that, I'm positive that every CVO Road Glide ST will sell out in no time. There are a lot of guys with big wallets who want the ultimate Harley performance bagger, and the big ST definitely qualifies. So is the CVO Road Glide ST a sport tourer? Not really, it's more of a sport bagger. Harley does make one sport tourer, and it's called the Pan America, the road-oriented one with the mag wheels. Is the big ST a fun bike? With that hot rod engine and tight suspension, it's more fun than any bagger has a right to be. Is it worth $43K US and $53 Canadian? That's up to the individual, and their accountant, I guess. This is an expensive bike considering that the standard Road Glide costs $17,000 US and $21,000 Canadian less. This is a motorcycle for the buyer who doesn't care about the price. I wish I was that buyer, but unfortunately there are other expenses which come first in my life. For those who can afford it though, well, they won't be disappointed with the performance. And if they want even more, there are a lot of parts you can bolt onto this thing to give it as much power as you want. So if you're watching this video because you're in the market to buy one of these, good for you. Most people, however, will watch it like they watch reviews of Ferraris and Porsches. Nice to contemplate, but not in our price range. I enjoyed my time with this bike and have to say it's a very nice bagger indeed. I'm still partial to the Road King though, with its classic lines. Which bagger is your favorite? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Ride safe, and may the spokes be with you.